Hey y'all, it's Amanda. Welcome back to my channel. A little bit different setup today. We got the chair. Okay, I've done a couple videos with this chair in the past, but wanted to do more of some sit down videos today. I've been feeling a little bit off balance since my trip, so I don't need to be standing up. Last time y'all seen that vlog, honey, at the end, I was like struggling. So hopefully this helps. And I like the more of the cozy vibes of sitting down. So we're here, and this is actually a lot easier, I feel like, to film. So maybe we'll do some more of this going forward. This chair is usually in Blake's room, but yeah, we brought it out for this video and several other videos that I'm getting ready to batch film. Today we have got a biblical fiction recommendations video. Biblical fiction. How many of you have read biblical fiction? Let me know down below in the comments what's your favorite biblical fiction. Let's chat below just as we always do. I have not read a ton, but I'm really into the genre and I have so many on my shelf. I actually didn't realize how many I had on my shelf that I have not read that I need to get to. You all let me know once we get to the TBR portion of this video, or like shelf spotlight, if you will, of biblical fiction that I have remaining to read. Let me know what you've read and what you recommend from my list, all that good stuff. But I have 6 books here. I think there's 6. Yeah, there's 6 books here of biblical fiction that I have read and really enjoyed. I know biblical fiction can be different for everyone. Some people prefer biblical fiction that is biblical times with fictionalized characters, and there are some that have actual Bible figures in the story as well. So I will try to depict that from what I know of, if I remember. So yeah, let's go ahead and dive right in. So the first one on my list, Connilyn Cossette. I've got 2 of her books here. The first one is Counted with the Stars. This is book 1 in her From Out of Egypt series. I've got the other 2 in my list here that I haven't read in the series. I do own, I don't know if I have 2 and 3. Actually, I have 2. I got book 2 on deck, okay? Anyway, I've heard this series is wonderful, and the first book was amazing. This was one of our book club picks last year, and I highly recommend this one. I gave this 5 stars, and there's just so much about this setting that I love. This was actually her debut novel, and I was completely blown away with this. You know, I really connected to our characters in the story. You know, I love this time period that is in Exodus, and we really got a little bit of a romance too. So it's like all the things that I love, and this was about a young Egyptian woman named Kaya, and she was sold into slavery by her father, and she was forsaken by the man that she was supposed to marry. And so she becomes friends with a young Hebrew woman, and she flees with the Hebrews after going through the different plagues that are described in the book of Exodus. And you just wonder, is she gonna like go back to Egypt, or is she gonna turn her life over to the Lord? And it's just a beautiful story in seeing her walk through this. She starts to realize everything about the Lord. It's very biblically accurate, and it transports you right to the culture of the Egyptians and the Hebrews. I was very intrigued by the Egyptians' point of view from the plagues that were going on during that time. So yeah, I read this very fast, and I highly recommend this author. The second book in the series is called Shadow of the Storm. I've got that over here. I don't even know what it's about, but I plan to read that at some point. This is a really great example of fictionalized characters set in biblical times, because it doesn't actually have any real Bible figures in here. I think there is some mentions of Moses, but he's not in this story that I remember. So that this is primarily about Kaya the Egyptian and all of that. The second book I want to talk about is Voice of the Ancient by Connilyn Cossette. This is book 1 in the King's Men, I don't know if it's trilogy or series, either way. I gave this 4 stars. Didn't love this as much as Counted with the Stars, but I still really enjoy this. I think it's a great, beautiful coming of age story. We have Abidan and Keziah. This is set during the crowning of King Saul during that time period. So Connilyn does such a wonderful job of the biblical setting, the biblical times with these fictionalized characters. This was a great start to the series. And so I also read the novella, The Wedding Gift, before that. I'll put a picture here of it. It came whenever you pre-ordered this, and I was on her launch team for this, and she's amazing. And, you know, so I was able to read that, and I love that introduction. It's a really nice, it's only like 100 pages, but it's a really nice introduction to the young men there as when they were boys that is in these stories. You know, and here they're grown men and going off to war. And so in that novella, you actually see like when they were young and stuff, and how they're great friends and cousins and all this stuff. This one follows Abidan and Keziah, like I said, at the start of the newly crowned King Saul. And Abidan and his 3 cousins are the main focus in this series. They have like this brotherhood that is very strong, and in this book we follow Abaddon and his search to find one of his missing cousins that went missing during the battle that they had together. And so he goes on this search alone to find him, and he ends up running into Keziah, who is on the run from like a forced marriage. She doesn't want to marry this guy off, of course, and so they kind of have this journey that's forced together. She's kind of pretending to be a young boy because she's cut her hair, and he knows that she's a girl. He doesn't know who she is, but he kind of keeps that to himself. And you know, we just start to see that there are these feelings that start to form, because like she doesn't know that he knows she's a female, and so you know that he just treats her like she's a young boy, but he really is starting to have these feelings for her. And you know, once things are starting to be revealed, they learn more about each other, and the romance blossoms from there. It just forms like a beautiful bond together, and they realize what is important to them, and they just really see this true protection of Yahweh. This book takes you on quite the journey. You know, we are seeing so much as Israel is crowning their first king, and you know, you see this our young characters going off to war, and you know, we have arranged unwanted marriages, and they're leaving loved ones, and it's like these people are only 17 years old. These kids, they're still kids, and they're having to go through some really hard things back during that biblical era, and it was just wow, very eye-opening, and they're having to make a lot of tough decisions at such a young age. And you know, we start to see a little bit too of the Israelites who were worshiping idols and the different pagan traditions, and you know, there's some learning of the truth from Yahweh in this. And yeah, the romance in this is the reason I didn't give it that 5 stars for me, but I still really enjoyed it. I do recommend it. I think a lot of you all will enjoy this. The romance was a little bit fast, but it does make sense in a biblical era, a biblical time, and it did read a little bit like YA because they are so young. But again, I love the way that Abaddon and Keziah like got to know each other, and you know, they were truly just would do anything to protect one another. Anyway, I talked a lot about this one because I recently read it and it's really fresh in my mind, and I highly recommend Connilyn Cossette. I want to read all of her books at this point, and I'm looking forward to the next book in this series. The next book on my list is Daughter of Eden by Jill Eileen Smith. I read this last year and I really enjoyed it. Was it last year? I read this year. It's come out in February. Okay. I said I'm reading this last year. Anyway, I read this year. I may have read, when did I read Connilyn Cossette? When did I read Cattle with the Stars? I think I read that this year. Anyway, let's move on. Time. Anyway, yeah, so Daughter of Eden, this was all about Adam and Eve, basically, obviously from the title, and it was this, so this does have real biblical figures in this story. And, you know, I gave this 4 stars. I liked it at the time. It was very interesting to see like what it could have been like for Adam and Eve during this time when the creation of the world had began. And you know, it features primarily Adam and Eve and their children, mostly Cain and Abel, and we have chapters even from Lucifer when he fell and became Satan. And so, you know, it follows many years encompassing many different characters and most of Adam and Eve's life pretty much. And so, you know, this is obviously a fictionalized work of what it could have been like for them during that time. And you know, I just felt like it was very interesting how they would, you know, speak to one another, the dialogue together, and you know, with God and their children. And it was very interesting to just see how they might have figured out things, you know, how to do things in life, in the world. And so I feel like the author does a really great job, you know, just interweaving God's truths and scriptures in this as well. You know, seeing how Eve would have reacted to her sin, and when she realized the mistake of eating the fruit and being deceived by the serpent was probably the most interesting part for me. And but where this kind of gets a little mixed feelings for me is like I had some mixed feelings on how Adam and Eve would have interacted together. Some of it was, I don't know, but overall I still enjoyed the story and the portrayal of it. It's very emotional to read about the fall of humanity. I think that she just did a really great job in that description. And you know, the best part of this is it made me go back to Genesis and read my Bible. Is it biblically accurate? Yes. I felt like it was. I feel like the majority of this was very accurate. The stuff between Cain and Abel. I mean, it was as far as like the factual items, and it's very thought-provoking, as many people have said, you know, and to see how Adam and Eve would have been grieved by what Cain did to Abel was also eye-opening. So there was just so much in this You know, parts of it got bogged down for me a little bit, I think, when they talked about its children and stuff. But overall, I highly recommend this. I touched my heart and my spirit in different ways and made me really think about that biblical era. And, you know, she just depicted how we're not perfect, but God is still with us. He still loves us no matter what we have done. And I think that a lot of you all will enjoy this. I think everyone's going to differ a little bit on their opinion about how they feel she did with her portrayal of Adam and Eve, but I did enjoy it overall when I read it. So yeah. Next book I want to talk about is Jewel of the Nile by Tessa Afshar. This is the first book by Tessa Afshar that I read. I gave this 4.5 stars. I rated it, I think, a 4 on Goodreads. But, you know, this is beautiful. The ending was my favorite part, honestly. It took me a little bit to get into it, but I definitely want to read more of her books. I got a wide variety here of her books that I want to read. You know, it's very, very close to a 5-star, you know. I got bogged down a little bit in the middle here. This was all about, was it Charlene? What's it say? I got my nose over here, so forgive me for looking, but memory. Yeah, Charlene, we'll just say Charlene, okay, because I'm in the South. But she's trying to figure out basically who her father is, and she was raised an orphan by her aunt, and, you know, nothing has been explained about her dad, really. She doesn't know anything about her past, and we know in this story that she's a mixture of Cush and Roman, but she has no idea who her father is. She begins her search for him, and she ends up overhearing her grandfather talk to her aunt, and then she realizes, hey, he's still alive and out there. I need to find him. And so, yeah, this book takes place during the time of Acts in the Bible. These are fictionalized characters in biblical settings, in a biblical setting, I should say. Tessa just had so much beauty in this story. There's a romance in this. We have this guy Theo, and, you know, I think she gets on a ship, I want to say. Let me just make sure. Yeah, she sneaks onto a ship of a merchant, okay, trusted by friends, and that's where she meets Theo, and there's a lot of them on the ship and stuff. I think that might have been the part I got bogged down. It's just been a while since I've read it. This was definitely last year, and so I want to say it was December of last year, so my memory's a little shaky, but I do remember I loved Theo. He was such a gentleman, and I felt like we had this true adventure on these characters from Cush to Rome, and, you know, she just told such a great story. Just a great storyteller is the way I should say it. Okay, I can't wait to read more of her books. Everyone raves about her books, and I feel like the scenes with the queen were top tier at the end. Like, the ending was the best part of this whole story. The audiobook narration was great, and so, yeah, beautiful faith content as well. So, yeah, I highly recommend this, and I cannot wait to read more of her books. They are all over here. I don't know how many I got. Maybe like 4 or 5. Who knows? We'll see. But anyway, all right, next. All right, now, was there any doubt you knew what the last ones on this list was going to be? If you have been watching me for any amount of time at all, you know that I'm going to say myself, these books wrecked me. I will link my vlogs, discussions, anything I have on this, that's going to be down below. And any other videos I can find with these in it. And reviews, all the things, and the books, that'll be linked. But this, A Voice in the Wind and Echo in the Darkness by Francine Rivers, amazing, beautiful. What do I even need to say? I was like the last one to be reading this, felt like. But I remember I read Voice in the Wind, took me like maybe 4 days or so to get through. The ending was like really fast. But then Echo in the Darkness, 24 hours. I'm just saying, these are just so faith-filled and beautiful, fictionalized characters in a biblical setting. And I want to say there may have been a couple of actual Bible figures in this, but I can't remember. So anyway, but primarily we have fictionalized characters in a biblical setting, okay? Yeah, I cried multiple times reading both of these. So in this series, we have our main girl, Hadassah. She has very strong faith. She inspires me, by the way. She's basically lost her entire family along the way from the very first chapter. It's heartbreaking, so there is triggering content in this. And honestly, the way I say it is any biblical fiction, go into it knowing there could be triggering content because the Bible has content that is hard to read sometimes, right? And so, you know, just think our source material is the Bible. What happened during the Roman Empire time? They killed people, right? They killed Christians. And that's what you see going on here. It's very hard to read. I feel like things that actually happened in the Bible were not even, they don't even touch what happened in this. It's 10 times worse in my mind. You know, just read Judges. Let's just say that. But there is content in here so that you are aware. I have to say that. But God is with her throughout this entire process. The story, it starts off in Jerusalem, where the Romans are killing Jews, and, you know, they're capturing women for slavery, and she pretty much loses her whole family, like I said, in the tragedy, and, you know, there's killings, starvation, all this stuff, and she is sold to this Roman house to be a slave, and she's hungry, she's alone, she doesn't know what she's going to do, but, you know, in this journey, she never stops praying to God, and, you know, she's trusting him throughout this. Her brother told her to remember the Lord, and that's what she did, and every step of the way, she was remembering the Lord in this. And, you know, the family that she's living with, Marcus and his parents and sister, you know, they start to grow attached to her in many different ways. And, you know, Marcus's sister, Julia, is the primary woman that Hadassah is, like, tending to throughout the story. And all these different things are happening along the way. Hadassah is this beautiful Christian girl, just, you know, showing us what it means to be a true Christian in the hardships of any experience that you have. And, you know, we have this side character in this story as well, Atreides. He's from Germania, and he ends up being captured by the Romans in this battle stuff, and book 3 is all about him. I've still not read book 3. I have it, I just haven't. You don't really, it's kind of that side character story of him and his story, and so I haven't really read that yet, but these two you really need to read back to back if you read them, because book 1 ends on a cliffhanger. But, you know, we just really see how Hadassah is impacting this family, and there is romance and stuff that goes on in here as well. So, yeah, I adored this story. Yes, there are hard topics and violence in this book, but again, it portrays what's in the Bible itself. I just feel like this book does a phenomenal job of just touching our hearts and drawing us near to God, and seeing what it means to truly forgive others. Both of these books, especially book 2, the forgiveness in book 2, let me just say, what it means to be a true believer of the Lord. Francine told this story, it's just anointed by the Lord, truly. There's just redemption, salvation, there's, you know, forgiveness, and it made me really stop and think about my own faith walk with the Lord. And a lot of you have said this same stuff. So yeah, how can I love my enemies no matter what they've done? And, you know, he's always with us. He sees us. The Lord sees us. And it's just, I cannot say enough just to read these. It's been a little bit since I've talked about them, but if you've been here for any amount of time, you know I love these. So yeah, read these. I highly recommend them. They're great. Francine, she never disappoints, honey. All right, those are the ones I have read and that I recommend. Now, let me just kind of go through. I've been filming about 18 minutes. I probably got a couple minutes I could take out. But, so let's say this is about 15 minutes so far. And I'm going to take maybe another 5 to 10 just to show you my TBR, or really a shelf spotlight. No time frame on these, but what I have on my shelf. You all let me know which one you think I should pick up first. And I think a lot of y'all are going to say this next one, okay? Gods and Kings by Lynn Austin. Y'all, I need to read this. So many of you all have talked about this. Oshina actually recently did like a biblical fiction video, and she talked about this, and I was like, oh yeah, I had that on my shelf. Completely forgot. Love Lynn Austin. Anytime I read her, I know she's primarily historical, but this is a biblical fiction. Honestly, I'm not going to do a good job of explaining what these are about. These are more so me just kind of showing you, but let me see if there's a synopsis. I think there is. It says, he was born to rule the people of God, but Yahweh is only a vague, powerless memory in the minds of his people. In the second, okay, this is about Hezekiah. I can't say words. Hezekiah. Okay, so yeah, though born the second son of King Ahaz. Okay, what am I saying? Hezekiah is not protected by his father's perverted attempts to gain the favor of the idol Molech. Terrified and powerless at the foot of Molech's altar, Hezekiah encounters for the first time the one and true God of his royal ancestry, Yahweh. But his journey to the Holy One is riddled by influence from an assortment of men. Zechariah, a grandfather of noble standing who has fallen into drunkenness. Uriah, the high priest, whose lust for power forces him to gamble the faith he proclaims. And Shebna, the Egyptian intellectual who guides Hezekiah's instruction. For the two women who love Hezekiah, the meaning of love and its sacrificial essence will direct the course of their lives and help shape the young prince's future. So I didn't plan to read that, but I did. So now I know who this is about, and I need to read this. So let me know. A lot of y'all have said you love this book, and I couldn't believe I found it for $4. I just had to have it. It was published in 2005, so yeah, a while back, and I'm here for it. So all right, so I got that, and then book 2 in Connilyn cassettes. Out from Egypt series. This is book 2 after Counted with the Stars. Need to read this. I'm not going to read the synopsis, but because this is book 2. But yeah, I need to get this. Okay, I need to get to this. Okay, now I got The Well. I love the Woman at the Well story in the Bible. One of my favorites. And this is by Stephanie Lansdom. I love this cover, by the way. I hate that, like, I got the sticker I can't get off, but we here. I got this for literally like $1, I want to say, somewhere. So why not? It's about the Samaritan woman at the well. We here. I'm not going to read the synopsis. I know the story of that. Beautiful, so faith-filled, because we have all been the woman at the well. The Lord has saw us. And it makes me emotional every time I think about it. He saw us in those moments. And no matter what we have done, he loves us, and he saw us. And yeah, I feel like I've been the woman at the well too, honey. I'm sure you have too. You know exactly what I'm saying. Being just fully transformed by the Lord. Then we have got Tessa Afshar, Daughter of Rome. Love this cover though. Isn't that gorgeous? It says on Goodreads, I didn't even want to read the synopsis honestly, but it says it sheds fresh light on how instrumental Priscilla and Aquila were in the early church. Paul calls them his co-workers in Christ Jesus. Of course, a lot of storylines and dialogue were fictional, but the events of Acts 18 were well portrayed. So, oh, I need to know this. I need to know about this. Priscilla. Okay. Ooh. Okay, we here. I need to know about this. Yeah, I'll be reading that. Definitely. This one is In the Shadow of Jezebel by Misu Andrews. And a lot of y'all love Misu Andrews. I've never read her, okay? I like to look at the Goodreads review on this. One review says, this is best for married men and women. An amazing book. I cannot remember the last time I felt so encouraged. Amazing reminder of what can happen when God gets a hold of a life and a heart. Wow. It also is a grim reminder of what can happen even when a godly person disobeys God. In this case, landing generations of people in the shadow of Jezebel. This is about Princess Jehoshaphat. There's Baal worship in this, depicting the worship of Baal and contrasting it with the worship of the one true God, Jehovah. Ooh, I need to read this. Wow. Can Jehoshaphat overcome her fear and save her family and the nation she loves? Okay. Ooh. I need to know. Okay. I'm sorry I'm not doing a good job explaining this. I'll link them below. I'm just like, I like to look at the Goodreads reviews and see what people say, because that kind of helps me understand a little bit. The next one on my list, I'm going to read the synopsis on this one. This is by Tessa Afshar, The Hidden Prince, and I know this has to do with Daniel. I pre-ordered this last year, and I haven't, I think, or was it this year? Whenever it came out. I think it was last year. When did this come out? Does this say? This came out November of last year, so I thought. This is Karen, a gifted young Jewish scribe in the household of Daniel, learns languages and swordsmanship along the great man's sons and their friend Jared. A tragic accident changes the course of her life, and she finds herself far from home, charged with a mysterious task. Teach a shepherd boy to be a lord. She soon hears hints of the child's true parentage and realizes she must protect him from a bloodthirsty king. Okay. Though Jared struggles to forgive Karen, he still travels over mountains to fetch her back to the safety of home. When he discovers the secret identity of Karen's pupil, love battles bitterness as Jared joins Karen on the journey of a lifetime to save the boy who may one day deliver the people up from captivity in Babylon. Okay, yes, I need to know this. Oh my gosh. You know when you read like the back of a book and you're like, it's like a new book. Okay. That's high up on the list. That is high up on the list. Okay. Next, I have got Angela Hunt, King's Shadow. I got this obviously for $2. I ain't got the tag off of here. Okay. 2 women occupy a place in Herod's court. So, set during the time of King Herod. The first, Salome, I don't know, is the king's only sister, a resentful woman who has been told she's from an inferior race, a people whom God will never accept or approve of. The second woman, Zara, is a lowly handmaid who serves Salome, we'll say that's her name. But where she spies conspiracy and treachery, Zara sees hurting people in need of understanding and compassion. Both women struggle to reach their goals and survive each day within Herod, the great's tumultuous, you know what I'm saying, court where no one is trustworthy and no one is safe. Okay, so let me know if you've read this. I haven't really seen anybody talk about that book. Now, the next one on my list, y'all already know I talked about this recently, is Iscariot by Tosca Lee. I know this is going to be 5-star. If I had to say 5-star prediction, here you go. This is all about Judas. And that's all we need to know. I need to know. So many of you have loved this book, and I know I'll cry. I know I'll cry. So, yeah, it's just, I need to know all about this. I've heard so many good things. So, Tosca Lee, love her. All right, Misu Anders, Pharaoh's daughter, okay. We know who this is about. So, I'm not going to read the synopsis on this because we know who this is about, but this obviously has talking about Moses and everything. So this obviously will have some actual biblical figures in this, it sounds like. Last little bit, it says, as bloodshed and savage politics shift the balance of power in Egypt, the gods revealed their fickle natures, and Enepe wonders if her son, a boy of Hebrew blood, could one day be a king. Or does the God of her Hebrew servants, the one they call El Shaddai, have a different plan for them all? I need to know. Okay, that's one that's high up on my list too, honestly. Now, these next two, they definitely are high up on the list, okay? Because Tessa, Afshar, Land of Silence, I think this is the woman who bled for 12 years, that touched Jesus and stopped bleeding, right? I'm pretty sure. Before Christ called her daughter, before she stole healing by touching the hem of his garment. I need to know. This is high up on my list. I love this cover. Tessa girl, yes. And then In the Field of Grace, Boaz and Ruth, I need to know. Again, that's all I'm saying. I mean, how many times have I said I need to know? I really want to read these two. These are high up on my list whenever I get back to a biblical fiction mode, whatever you want to call it. So obviously these are about real biblical figures. So, then we've got The Crimson Cord by Jill Eileen Smith. And this is Rahab. That's all I need to know right here. All about Rahab. Finds herself sold as a slave to cover her husband's debt. Forced into prostitution, she despairs of ever regaining her freedom and self-respect. But when Israelite spies enter Jericho and come to lodge at her house, Rahab sees a glimmer of hope and the opportunity of a lifetime. I am saying this right now. I love the book of Joshua. And Jericho and the whole story in the Bible is one of my favorites. You know, I read the book of Joshua like in the last year over the summer, and I really want to read this too. This is high up on the list. I'm telling you, a lot of these are high up on my list. It's just I don't gravitate towards biblical fiction a lot. I have to like really think about it and remember. So Iscariot, I'm going to read in October for sure. And maybe I might pick up one of these others in November. Let me know. It just depends. Now, the next three are all Francine. Okay, so this is the book As Sure as the Dawn. This is Mark of the Lion, book 3. Okay, this is about Atreides and everything with him. He's like, it's kind of like Gladiator vibes, really. So, yeah, there's a lot going on there. And then we've got Lineage of Grace. This is 5 stories of unlikely women who changed eternity. So this is her bind up of 5 short stories about women from the Bible. So real women from the Bible: Tamar, Rahab, Ruth, Bathsheba, and Mary. So I've heard this is really great. And then we've got Sons of Encouragement. My girl Sheena, I don't know if I'm going to love this either, because she ended up DNFing this book because of just a lot of it was kind of boring, we'll say. The way that Francine wrote some of this, she just didn't have the interest in some of these. But I probably would be the same, honestly. But at some point, I'll try to read this. I will need the audiobook, probably. But it's Aaron, Caleb, Jonathan, Amos, and Silas. So take that for what you will. I got it on my shelf. Let me know which one of those would be your favorite story if you've read that one. I know they were published individually at one time, and then they redid it as a bind-up. So let me know what you think about, like, you know, maybe just one of those in there I would read at least. But anyway, that's it for this video. It's at least 25 minutes now because I'm long-winded. But I hope that you enjoyed this video. Let me know some of your favorite biblical fiction authors, favorite biblical fiction books in general, any on this list, some that you think I need to prioritize from the TBR list that we talked about, all that good stuff. Have you read any of the ones I talked about in the beginning? All that fun stuff we always talk about in the comments, y'all. Let me know. We'll chat below. Hey, that rhymed. I just say it. Thank y'all for watching, and I'll see you on my next video. Bye, y'all.